안녕하세요, Cloud입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Today we're going to learn about G. Not the G as in from 어제 봤지 or 봤죠, but rather the G from something like 뭔지 알아? Or 한지 얼마나 안 됐다. Things like that. So if you've reached today's lesson, you've probably spent a good amount of time studying Korean. How long have you been studying Korean? 1 year? 6 months? 3 years? More? Less? With the grammar we'll learn today, we'll be able to say how long you've been studying Korean and things like that. So let's get right into it. This lesson is divided into 5 parts. Part 1, a clause of uncertainty, 능지. Not to be confused with ninja, of course. Sorry, bad joke. Adding 능지 at the end of a clause, you indicate that there's some sort of guess, a question, some sort of uncertainty. So for example, the sentence, I don't know where my friend is going, there's an uncertainty there. There's 3 parts of that sentence. The subject, I, the uncertainty of the sentence, where my friend is going, I don't know where he's going, and then the verb, not knowing. So in Korean, it would look something like this. 저는, then the uncertainty in parentheses, and then 몰라요. I don't know, the verb, and then the uncertainty. So what is the uncertainty? Where my friend is going, correct? So in Korean, that would be 친구가 어디 가는 것을. Now, if you put it all together, it should look something like this. 저는 친구가 어디 가는 것을 몰라요. Now, since the part in the parentheses is uncertain, 는지 should be added instead of 는 것. So finally, we get this sentence. 저는 친구가 어디 가는지 몰라요. Note that the G is connected to the 가는. They're all connected together. There's no space in between. Unlike 가는 곳, there's a space between 가는 and 곳. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's do the same process with some question words like what, how, when, who, etc. I don't know what my mom is eating. This sentence, let's look at it. I is the subject. Don't know is the verb again. And the uncertainty is what my mother or what my mom is eating. So this sentence here. 저는 엄마가 뭐 먹는 것을 모르겠어요. Now again, adding 는지 instead of 는 것, we get 엄마가 뭐 먹는지 모르겠어요. I don't know what mom is eating. Here you can see we omitted 저는 again because we do that a lot in Korean, as you know by now. Also note that 모르다 is often conjugated to the future tense, to 모르겠다, but it doesn't really mean the future tense. It's just a common and slightly more polite way of saying that I don't know something. Here's a couple more examples. 그 사람을 왜 데려오는지 물어봤어요. I asked him why he is bringing that person. 학생들은 선생님들이 돈을 얼마나 버는지 몰라요. Students don't know how much teachers earn. 열쇠를 어디 두었는지 잊어버렸어요. I forgot where I put my keys. Now you can see this sentence here is actually in the past tense. So you just simply add at or ot to 능지, just like we've learned a lot of other times. And for the future tense, you guessed it, you just add rir or then g. So in this example, 수술을 받을지 확실하지 않아요. It's not certain if I'll get a surgery. One more example, I think. 내일 영화를 볼지 모르겠어요. I don't know if I'm going to see a movie tomorrow. This can also be translated to I might see a movie tomorrow. In general, a lot of times when you don't see a question word with an uncertainty clause in the future tense, so like what we have here, you can translate it as might. It's the same thing though. I don't know or I might do something. They're the same thing. The point is you're just uncertain. So let's move on to part 2. Using 능지 with adjectives now. So when using 능지, the 능지 principle with adjectives, we add nian or ng instead. Just like we add nian or to adjectives when we're describing nouns, like in my favorite examples, 긴 머리 or 예쁜 여자. So here's an example. 제가 강아지를 기르고 싶은지 모르겠어요. I don't know if I want to raise a puppy. Now let's look at this in some more depth. So in part 3, if or not. I'm not sure if this will make sense or not. it makes sense that this type of construct, I'm not sure if I'm going to eat or not, if I'm going to sleep or not, etc. That construct is done using the nenji principle that we just learned. The simplest way to do this is to add nenji to both scenarios. So for example, 내일 영화를 볼지 안 볼지 모르겠어요. I don't know if I'll see a movie tomorrow or not. Right? So we add it to both. 저는 엄마가 공부했는지 안 했는지 모르겠어요. I don't know if mom studied or not. Now you can see here that when the verb contains 하다 in it, you can just use the 하다 part in the second time around. Instead of saying 공부했는지, 공부 안 했는지, instead of saying 공부 twice, you can just say 공부했는지, 안 했는지. Makes it a little bit shorter. You can also have two unrelated things. So not just, I'm not sure if I'll do this or not. You can have, I'm not sure if I'm going to go or sleep in. I'm not sure if I'm going to eat or fly. So, for example, 내일 공원에 갈지 영화를 볼지 모르겠어요. I don't know if I'll see a movie or go to the park tomorrow. So two unrelated things. Pretty neat, right? Well, we're still not done with the uses of G. We can use this G to ask if someone knows something or not. So, for example, do you know how to get to Seoul? 서울에 어떻게 가는지 알아요? Now, if someone was asking me this and I did know, I would say 네, 알아요. But let's expand on that. What do I know? I know how to get to Seoul. So if I wanted to answer the question, I would say 서울에 어떻게 가는지 알아요. I know how to get to Seoul. Now, you might say that there's no uncertainty here. There's nothing that's uncertain since I know how to get there. But it's more like I'm stating the fact that I have knowledge of that uncertainty. It can be a little bit confusing, but since there's a question word in this sentence, it's a bit more natural to use G instead of 것. Now, part 4, attaching to G. Previously, we learned how to use to, but when adding to G, it's a little bit different. So it's not the same like 밥도 안 먹었어. I didn't eat rice either. Things like that. 저도 할게, like I'll also do it. In this case, we have two different usages. The first use is even. So like even this. So for example, 문을 열지도 몰라. Even this, even opening the door, you don't even know how to open the door. Proper English. But we won't be focusing on this usage in this lesson since it'll be discussed in much later lessons. The second usage, though, the lesson goes on for some time talking about this usage of to. And it compares these two sentences. 내일 비가 올지 모르겠어요. And 내일 비가 올지도 모르겠어요. To summarize, to here doesn't really do much. There's no real difference between the two sentences, as you can see in the translation. If you're not satisfied with that as an answer, which is fine, check out the lesson for an in-depth discussion to find out why that's the conclusion. So, you might be thinking, so when do we use to? Well, to is added to uncertain clauses conjugated in the future tense, not the past or present. To is also not added to uncertain clauses with question words in them. So if you think of to as meaning or not, so like I'm not sure if it will rain or not, right? If you think of to as or not, then it would be weird to say something like this. 비가 언제 올지도 모르겠어요. I don't know when it'll rain or not, right? Even in English, that just sounds weird. You don't know when it will rain or not. It's the same thing in Korean. It's a bit weird. All right, that was the hard part. I know I was speeding through this, but we're done with the hard part. One more meaning of G to go. Part 5. I've been doing something for Y amount of time. I've been doing X for Y amount of time, basically. This usage doesn't really have the uncertainty in it. It's not really related to the usage we learned. G here talks about how long something's been happening. From that time that it's been happening, or from the time that it happened until the present. The way you use it is very simple. You take a verb, you conjugate it into the past tense using ni은 or 은, and then you add G. And there's a space in between, as we'll see. Then you end off the sentence with 됐다. So let's see what that looks like. 밥을 먹은지, you can see there's a space between 먹은 and 지. 먹은지 5분 됐다. This example in the lesson is a really good example for showing off G and the meaning behind G rather than just the translation, because it can differ based on the context. Usually this won't be a problem because the context will make it very obvious. But when you're looking off at just these sentences or just trying to make a sentence, it can be a little confusing. So this example is really good at highlighting what this means. So as long as we remember that G refers to a period of time from when something happened to the present, we'll be good. Let's look at a couple of scenarios. I'm eating a sandwich. My friend walks by and asks, "Oh, how long have you been eating?" I would respond using the sentence 밥을 먹은 지 5분 됐어. I've been eating for 5 minutes. Since I started eating, right? He asked how long have I been eating. So since I've started eating until the present time, it's been 5 minutes. Great. Now let's look at a second scenario. The next day, same friend passes by and he might want to go out for lunch with me. And he sees that I have an empty plate next to me. So he might ask, "How long has it been since you ate?" I would respond with just the same exact sentence. 밥을 먹은 지 5분 됐어. It's been 5 minutes since I last ate. He's asking, how long has it been since I ate? Since I last ate, until the present, it's been 5 minutes. So although you can see these two English translations are different, the G is just doing the same thing, just in different contexts. So let's look at some more examples. 강아지를 기른 지 10년 됐어요. I've been raising a dog for 10 years, or it's been 10 years since I started raising a dog. Same thing. Since the time that I started raising the dog until the present, it's been 10 years. If you can think of it that way as well. But obviously that would be a very lengthy translation. Let's look at another example. 한국어를 공부한 지 얼마나 되었어요? This can be when asking someone, how long have you been studying Korean? It's probably a question you've gotten a lot. You can also use 얼마 안 I can't English. 얼마 안 되다, or I can't Korean today, to say you haven't been doing something for very long. So for example, 제가 한국에서 산 지 얼마 안 됐어요. I haven't been living in Korea for very long. That's it for this lesson. This is probably the longest one I've done. Yeah, we're past 12 minutes. You'll see this sort of thing construct all the time. So hopefully this clears things up for you guys. Next lesson, we have another 는 것 lesson. So look forward to that.